If you're taking AP European history, you're in the right place. I'm here with Tom Richey, the king of AP Euro. Tom, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I tell you, we just had a good session, just going through, getting ready for some art review in a little bit. But, I know the kids are excited to see a little bit of, Marco, the actual dog, making an appearance pretty soon, hopefully. Now, sometimes he's not the best behaved dog. That's something that we have to always
He's
think
very
about.
tired before exams. He gets very tuckered out and he needs his nap time. But I'll bring his big corporeal giant white fluffy form in towards the end. And again, everyone, thank you for joining. I posted some links in the description to our study guide pack, to Tom Ritchie's playlist, to all the resources that we have available for you guys. So definitely check that out. Tom, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we'll be giving you a chance to guide students on some last minute tips for AP Euro.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, y'all go ahead. I mean, I can do some shout outs, but also if anybody's got some questions here, we've got only a small group here right now. So, go ahead and shout out to Mr. Diddy Goops, please. Okay. So, as far as that, Annabelle, good to see you here. And how can I help y'all tonight? Okay. Those of you who are here, some of the first ones here, y'all get to guide this thing. I'm going to be here for about the next, 25 minutes or so. And then, of course, John, for Marco, has got a, very long history of helping people with test prep. And also, y'all want to remember that Marco Learning doesn't just do AP Euro, but they're providing support for several AP subjects. Remember, if you go to marcolearning.com, you can download free study guides and also a free practice test. If you want to do a free practice test, before you take the exam tomorrow afternoon, there's a practice test with answer explanations. So as far as that goes, okay, so Enlightened Absolutism, Annabelle, who came over from my review earlier, and as far as Enlightened Absolutism. Okay, so this is kind of a way to sort of merge together absolutism and the Enlightenment. Now, note here that, to some extent, these are kind of antithetical concepts, because when you think about this, when you look at Immanuel Kant, who wrote the essay, What is Enlightenment? He was writing that, enlightenment needs freedom in order to grow. Okay, so in order for enlightenment to thrive, there must be freedom. Now, on the other hand, that's something here as when we're thinking about that, the Enlightenment needs freedom. And since the Enlightenment needs freedom, now Frederick the Great can say, you've got the freedom of scientific inquiry, or you've got the freedom of, religion. But Montesquieu says, like, in order for Enlightenment to really thrive, there has to be some sort of separation of powers so that nobody is afraid of the government. If the power's all in one place, you really can't have true freedom. Now, that's Montesquieu. Whereas Kant, who is a German or a Prussian philosopher, Kant says, look, I mean, Frederick the Great is awesome because he lets us argue as much as we like, as long as we obey him. And so when we think about the Enlightenment, the Enlightened Absolutist, it's the Enlightened Absolutist. Okay, so it's the night before the exam. I've been going all week for 3 subjects. Y'all bear with me, but the Enlightened Absolutist, I usually think about it like, Admiral Akbar on Star Wars. It's a trap, and so toleration of religious minorities. Okay, so when we think about toleration of religious minorities, religious toleration, Frederick the Great is really the best at that. Of course, Joseph II is given some limited toleration to the Jewish community, allowing them to open some of their own schools, for example. And so toleration of religious minorities, reform of institutions. Okay, so when we think about reforming institutions, that's where Frederick the Great is coming up with a civil service system. So people have to take a test in order to come into government service. So he's reforming these institutions. And so then you look at Joseph II, who tried abolishing serfdom. Okay. Catherine the Great, not so big on, reforming institutions, because Catherine owed too much to the nobility. And then we see absolutism. Of course, they are promoting their own absolute rules. So toleration of religious minorities, reform of institutions, absolutism, and patronage of the philosophes. Okay, basically, Catherine the Great is really the best at that. She's got a long correspondence with Voltaire and Diderot. And actually, with Diderot, she heard Diderot was having financial trouble. And so what she did is she said, hey, Diderot, I'm going to buy your library from you. So here is a lump sum of money that I'll purchase your library. And then she said, but I want you to hold on to it for me. And I want you to be my librarian. Okay. And so with that, she wants him to be the librarian. So she's supporting him. And Diderot actually went to, St. Petersburg and visited Catherine the Great. That was a long trip back then to go all the way across Europe before railroads or anything like that. And I mean, it's even a long trip today. And so with that, that's enlightened absolutism. Now, also the promotion of science. This is a book that is just really funny. It's called The Potato King. And this actually, all of the art in the book is made with potatoes. And so, I can't think of any better way to kind of read y'all a little bedtime story, a story of the Potato King. Okay. And so once there was once a king called Fritz. One day he heard about a new wonder plant from South America, the potato. Okay. And so note here that this is promoting science, because one thing we want to think of is the potato. It is a very calorie dense food. In fact, if somebody's going on a diet, they're not supposed to eat white potatoes. White potatoes is one of the things that if you're trying to cut calories, you don't eat them. Now, if you're a starving peasant, those calories are really good for you. And so Frederick the Great is like, how can I get people? Of course, we've figured out how to make potatoes now. It's like the French and the Dutch have gotten so great with like frites, French fries. And then, the British with fish and chips. We make mashed potatoes here in America. Of course, I guess they've got mashed potatoes in Europe as well. But still, I mean, we know how to make potatoes tasty. But if you think about like raw potatoes, they don't taste very good. And so the thing is, Frederick is trying to get his people to adopt the potato. You also have to think about potatoes are ugly. Like it's not a very pretty kind of thing. And so this is one of those things that that he's promoting the Enlightenment because he's promoting science. We need to promote this crop. Here, I will give you the potato. It costs little to grow and is healthy to boot. And so the people, they didn't like to be told what to eat, it says here. King Fritz was upset. Then he had an idea. Now think about enlightened absolutism is absolutism from above. Okay. And so as far as that goes, that he's like, how can I trick the people into eating potatoes? And so the way the legend goes is Frederick the Great ordered his soldiers to march to the village and to guard the potato field. And so basically now who knows if this happened, but it's a great story about enlightened absolutism, that the soldiers guard the potato field and then the villagers are like, well, if the vegetable has to be so closely guarded, there must be something special about it. And so we see here that basically the king ordered the guards to like go to sleep at night and the villagers stole the crop. And so Frederick, now the thing is, this exact story, did it happen that way? Not necessarily, but Frederick was known as the Potato King. Frederick the Great is known as the Potato King. Any of y'all seen Charlie the Unicorn Part 2, where they're like, you're the Banana King. Oh, I'm the Banana King, but Frederick the Great was the Potato King. And so with that, if you've never seen Charlie the Unicorn, you should watch that. It's like vintage YouTube. Okay, Peace of Westphalia. Okay, so we've got Men wants to hear about the Peace of Westphalia. And so with that, this is something, yeah, and what John's saying in the chat is like, this would be, if you were asking about the promotion of science and that sort of thing, that enlightened absolutist, I mean, Frederick the Great is promoting the growing of the potato, which is a scientific advancement. And so with this, as we were asking here, what was that again that I just, let's see. So, let's see that, oh my goodness, I know what I was about to start on there. But now I am, what was that I just said that I was going to do? So I don't know what, I'm trying to find what I was just doing here. The Prague Spring, that is when Prague, they had a liberalizer, like basically Prague in 1968, they elected a liberalizing, a liberalizing leader. And so with that, the Soviet Union decided to basically arrange a Warsaw Pact invasion of Czechoslovakia. And so they basically removed that government. That was in 1968. Now, the student protests in France were the same year. I've never been in a situation where I've had to explain that. So just knowing that 1968, whether in Eastern Europe or Western Europe, it was a pretty tumultuous year. It was also the year that you had these anti-Vietnam War protests in the United States. So going from that, we're talking about the Peace of Westphalia. The Peace of Westphalia, it basically ends an era of warfare, okay? Because during the Reformation, wars are about religion. People are fighting about religion. Religion is central to conflict in Europe. And so with that, that basically the 30 Years' War, what we're going to see in the 30 Years' War is that we're going to see there that the war starts off as being local and religious in the Holy Roman Empire, and it grows into being more continental and more political as time goes on. So we want to make a special note of, of what's going on there in terms of the war is getting not only bigger, but also more political. So France, for example, one of the biggest things about the 30 Years' War is where France comes in on the side of the Protestants. And this is something that is going to shift the balance of power. France is thinking about, they've been through the French Wars of Religion. Remember, politique, somebody that's a politique. This is somebody that puts political concerns and the concerns of the nation over religious concerns. Okay, so basically Cardinal Richelieu, who is the first minister of Louis the 13th, he says, like, look, we're going to bring France in on the side of the Protestants here, and we are going to, with France coming in on the side of the Protestants, basically it's no longer a religious war anymore. You see that it's no longer a religion thing. It is much more of a political conflict. And so we're going to see in 1648, the Peace of Westphalia is going to be like this, this political, kind of conflict here that then goes into the next phase of warfare, that the next phase of warfare is going to be much more focused on the balance of power with things like the War of the Spanish Succession during Louis the 14th, and then the 7 Years' War, which is, of course, like a global balance of power kind of war there, where we see colonial rivalries. And so that's the biggest thing in 1648. The Peace of Westphalia closes the book on those, on that old way of doing warfare, where it's much more about religion than anything else. Okay, so that's something that I think is, is extremely important here, where we're thinking about, religion going away. Now, the other thing here is that, France is going to become an ascendant power. Now, I don't think like it would be accurate, to say that the 30 Years' War had a winner and a loser and stuff like that, but certainly the Habsburgs are not in a better position because of the 30 Years' War. The Habsburgs are in a worse position, and France is actually on the way up, okay? Because of the 30 Years' War and the Peace of Westphalia, France is in a position to actually, to go to be the, basically the epicenter of greatness in Europe under Louis the 14th, whereas the Habsburgs are going to lose clout, and you're going to see less of a centralization in the Holy Roman Empire. Now, also the independence of the Netherlands and Switzerland is recognized as well. In addition, Calvinism becomes a legal religion in the Holy Roman Empire. So Calvinism becomes a legal religion of the Holy Roman Empire. And then we see that, also the what do you call it? The freedom of private worship. Okay, the freedom of private worship is going to be something that we're going to see in the Holy Roman Empire. And so, really, kind of across Europe, it's going to be less of a concern what religion you're practicing in private. The Dutch Republic is a great example of this, where, you know, they're officially Calvinist, but at the same time, you know, they're officially Calvinist, but they are, you know, they're just like, you know, if you're Jewish or you're Catholic or whatever you are, you know, just, you know, do whatever you're going to do. That, you know, everybody being able to do commerce is more important than everybody having the same religion. So with that, let's see what we've got here. So with that, Calvinism is kind of based. That's one way to think of it, isn't it? So with this, evaluate the extent to which Marco is a good dog. I think that, you know, Marco, that would be one of those. I don't know if that can really be a question, because, well, actually it is a debatable question, because Marco is actually, like, he really is, you know, he's really an adorable dog, as y'all will see, but, you know, not the best behaved. Okay, not the best behaved, not the smartest, you know, but definitely iconic. Okay, so with this, yeah, so when we're thinking about the French wars of religion, you know, Henry of Navarre, who was a Huguenot. Now, remember, Calvinism, you know, which somebody said is kind of based, you know, that Calvinism is, you know, a religion that kind of, it's one of those, like Lutheranism. It's always good to know maps. Like Lutheranism is common in, like, northern Germany and Scandinavia. Okay, like basically for whatever reason, like Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Iceland, Lutheran. Okay, like Lutheranism just really, like, you know, it did well in Scandinavia. I don't know if it's, you know, something about the cold weather. I don't know. But Lutheranism, you know, remember Gustavus Adolphus of Sweden was a Lutheran and intervened partly to help, you know, German Lutherans during the 30 Years' War, and partly because he wanted to make sure to defend his influence in the Baltic. And so going from there, we see that, you know, Gustavus Adolphus is a Lutheran. And so from there, that, you know, Calvinism goes all the way, like the Hohenzollerns, the Fredericks, that dynasty that rules Prussia. They're Calvinist, and Calvinism was added as a legal religion in the Holy Roman Empire. The Peace of Augsburg was only applied to Lutheranism and Catholicism. And so, you know, when we're looking at this, Calvinism also goes into Scotland. You've got Calvinists in England that are responsible partly for the English Civil War. And so then in France, they're called Huguenots, okay, which is like, I don't know, I think about John Calvin in a spacesuit, and I remember it that way. But Huguenot, which nobody really is completely sure about where that word came from. It is just a strange word, and whatever, you know, this is what they referred to Catholic, you know, not to Calvinists, but Calvinists. They referred to Calvinists this way, as Huguenots. And so with that, you know, Henry of Navarre was you know, in southern France, a lot of the French nobles became Huguenots, including Henry of Navarre. And that's, of course, what is starting the French wars of religion, because you've got the Catholic dynasty, you know, with Catherine de' Medici and her sons, and then you've got the, you know, this Protestant league that is fighting. And of course, Henry of Navarre, one thing I didn't know until recently, when Henry Navarre became Henry IV of France, because he had the, you know, the best claim to the throne, he initially tried to govern. I thought it was like instantaneous, but it wasn't. Like for like 3 or 4 years, he continues to try to fight the wars of religion and to try to rule France as a Protestant. But then he finally sees, like, Catholic France is never going to accept a Protestant king. You know, it's just, he has to come to terms with the reality that, you know, that France is you know, France is a Catholic country. And so that's where Henry IV then, you know, converts to two things, really. He converts to Catholicism, and he converts to the politique philosophy, because remember, the politique philosophy looks like politicue if you're just writing it. The politique philosophy is about, you know, you know, it's about basically putting politics over religion. Okay, and so as far as that goes, let's see what we've got. Girl, no, Paris is worth a mass, not a mat. Okay, but Paris is worth a mass. Okay, and so with that, the format, let's see here. Can I explain? Yeah, I'm about to do the art review, ladies and gentlemen. I'm about to go over and do the premium art review. Now, the thing is, John's going to be around here, and John actually knows a good bit about art history, and it's certainly not going to offend me if John talks to y'all about art. Those of y'all who aren't coming to the art review, if John talks to y'all about art, that's something that's really his business, and I think that's great. Imagine if it wasn't a written test. Oh, I would do so bad there if it weren't a written test. Okay, yeah, so great, Maggie. You look like you are ready for this. Okay, Bio Cup 7. I'm glad you brought up the Catholic Counter-Reformation. Okay, because this is something that reminds me, what great resources are available at marcolearning.com. Okay, so let's go over here and let's do a little shameless plug for Romulus Euro. It's at the App Store and Google Play, and let's see, marcolearning.com/AP Euro, where you're going to find several study guides that go, that are in the first couple units, and the Catholic Reformation or the Counter Reformation. Now, it's called either one. You can call it the Catholic Reformation, the Counter Reformation, the Catholic Counter Reformation. What you want to note here is when we say Counter Reformation, Counter Reformation, we're focusing on the part of the Reformation that is against Protestantism, okay? So part of the Catholic Reformation is the part that is against Protestantism. And so, that is part of it. But then there's the other part. The reason why we call it also the Catholic Reformation is there is an internal reform in the Catholic Church, that you've got the Council of Trent, which is, I would say, that the only church councils that you really need to be familiar with for this course. One of them being, the Council of Trent, the other one being Vatican II in the late 20th century. These are both councils that are called together in order to, reform and try to, help the Catholic Church, kind of go into the next modern era. Now, on one hand, so the Council of Trent is the council of Catholic bishops that met in the during the Reformation. And so going from there, what we want to note here is that there's continuity and change. Now, the Council of Trent, I would say here there's continuity because of the affirmation of Catholic doctrine. The Council of Trent did not change anything about Catholic doctrine whatsoever. So my jingle here is the affirmation of Catholic doctrine. Okay, so the primacy, they reaffirmed the primacy of the Pope, traditional Catholic beliefs, but the reformation of church practices, and they created new religious orders, new seminaries to train priests, banning the sale of indulgences. Okay, and so with that, some of these new religious orders, you definitely want to associate the Jesuits and Ignatius of Loyola with the Counter-Reformation, and also Teresa of Avila, who was a mystic and someone who reformed her Carmelite order of nuns. And so we also want to note the relationship between Baroque art and the Catholic Reformation. The Baroque was used, it was appropriated by absolutists and also appropriated by the Catholic Church. And so with this Bernini's, the Ecstasy of Saint Teresa, you are seeing here that the Catholic Church, what is, the Protestants said, you can't have a good spiritual experience in the Catholic Church, okay? And so with that, the Catholic Church is responding, oh, does it look like Teresa of Avila is missing out on anything? Nope. And so this is, now one thing about Baroque, one thing that you can kind of see about Baroque, note the diagonal. There are a lot of Baroque paintings and sculptures that there is, instead of the Renaissance art, which goes into balance, the Baroque is more of a diagonal. And because, basically there are a lot of Counter-Reformation religious themes in Baroque art. And then the absolutist will appropriate Baroque because it is so grand. It is such a grand style. So that's something that is very important to note. But these for those of you that are that are preparing to review for some early material, these are really great. So of course POV me, I helped make them, but that's something I think that also POV me. I've been teaching AP Euro for quite a long time now, and so from there, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and head over to the art review. But we're going to see, I have Snap, Tom Richey SC. I don't really post there much, but y'all are free to follow it. And remember to follow at Marco Learning on Instagram. They've got a lot of good memes, and that's going to be something that that is going to be good. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, there is the guest.
There he is, the meme king of Instagram. Everyone, do we think Marco is going to get a 1 on tomorrow's exam or a 0? Those are really the only options if the paw prints. I know, Tom, you always talk about positive scoring and the graders are on your side. I'm hoping Marco puts his, couple of little dirty hoof prints and some saliva. Close your mouth.
Okay. Hey, Marco.
He doesn't see, he's really, first of all, he doesn't like being hoisted up like this, but at this hour, it's past his bedtime. He knows he needs to go study. He wants to go study art with you. So Tom, thank you so much. Best of luck for everyone who's studying. I'm going to spend a few minutes with everyone here. I'm going to go through this, the early units. Have a great night, Tom. Best of luck for everyone who's studying in Tom's session. I'm John from Marco Learning. I'm a European historian by training. I'm the founder of Marco Learning. And some of you might recognize some of the TikToks I've posted, some of the things I put on our Instagram account. If you don't follow us there, definitely do that. What I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to walk you through our 2-page cheat sheets for each of the units. And what we're going to do, everyone, is I'm going to give you guys a super fast crash course in what you need to know for this exam as a basic level of themes. If you've got questions and comments, post them here. If you're enjoying the video, press the like button. Let's get to work. Unit 1 is all about the Renaissance. And there are 2 Renaissances you need to know for the AP European History exam. The first is the Italian Renaissance. It's more secular. It's funded by money from merchants. It creates something called humanism. The poster boy for this movement is Petrarch. Here he is, beautiful, beautiful robes, nice little shoes, Petrarca. He is in Florence, reading the classics, writing in modern Italian or early modern Italian. And he basically sets the stage intellectually for the movement that will explode into this kind of art. This is Italian Renaissance art, the School of Athens. There's Plato and Aristotle. In a line, in a single point perspective, all of the lines converge in one space. This is the kind of art that we see in the 1500s, defining the Italian Renaissance. And again, these guides are all here for you. This whole study guide pack is right here at the bottom of this page, everyone. So I'm going to post that there. So the thing you want to know about Italian Renaissance is humanism, Petrarch. It's funded by rich people like the Medici, and it gives us single point perspective and much prettier art than medieval art. I'm a medieval historian, and this is what I know. Let's take a look at the Northern Renaissance, which is different from the Italian Renaissance. The Northern Renaissance creates something called Christian humanism, which is more religious in nature. Your poster boy for this is Erasmus of Rotterdam. He's in the north. He has nice fur, dirty hands from all the writing he's doing. He is translating the Bible. He is criticizing the Catholic Church, but from within. So this first page of our study guide pack on AP European History, Unit 1, defines the Italian Renaissance as more backed by banking and more secular, and the Northern Renaissance as more religious in nature. There's a section in Unit 1 on the new monarchies. The poster boys for this are Henry VIII and Elizabeth I in England, and Ferdinand and Isabella in Spain. Here's what you need to know, everyone. In the 1500s, monarchs were getting more powerful. Henry was consolidating power. Ferdinand and Isabella were consolidating power. More powerful monarchs in the 1500s. In the Middle Ages, kings and queens were kind of weak. In the age of exploration, at the end of Unit 1, Europeans begin to expand all around the world. This is another thing that marks the end of the Middle Ages, and we see the rise of the Columbian Exchange. All these yummy things. Earlier, Tom was talking about Frederick the Great. as the potato king. This is where potatoes are coming from. Europeans are sending diseases and all of these products into the New World. You need to know about the slave trade and the Columbian Exchange. Everyone, that's Unit 1 in a nutshell. The Italian Renaissance happens first, is more secular and better funded. The Northern Renaissance is religious. In the North, happens later. Monarchies get more powerful. Europeans begin to explore. Okay. Unit 2, Reformation. The Protestant Reformation explodes when this guy, look at him, gorgeous, Martin Luther, 1517, wispy bangs, very interesting hat, pins his 95 Theses to the door at Wittenberg Cathedral. I've been there. It's a lot of fun. They have like it engraved in bronze or whatever, the 95 Theses. These are ideas criticizing the Catholic Church. He launches the Protestant Reformation, another thing that marks the end of the Middle Ages. We see it wasn't just Protestants criticizing the Catholic Church responds in the Catholic Counter-Reformation. The Counter-Reformation is an extraordinary moment where the Catholic Church, especially in the Council of Trent, reforms itself from within. So there's two Reformations, the outside one, or the one that becomes outside. Luther starts out Catholic and does his own thing, and the one that happens inside. Along the way, in Unit 2, you've got to know about the wars of religion. Protestants versus Catholics explodes into violence. So the Unit 1 is all about the Renaissance. Unit 2 is all about the Reformation. And let's see, I'm just going to close off. That's my Discord server. In fact, let me real quick, if any of you want to join our Discord server, I'm going to post that link in the chat just once. You can jump into the conversation there. Unit 1, Renaissance. Unit 2, Reformation. Another thing that happens, and Tom was just pointing this out, this is the ecstasy of Teresa of Avila. Excuse me. The ecstasy of Teresa of Avila showing drama and tension and complexity that's much more dynamic than what we saw in that earlier art. There are two art movements that we've covered so far in these study guides. And again, I'll just put this here. This is the one at the bottom, the European History Study Guide Pack, 2 pages on each unit. And anyway, so the first bit of art that we covered was this kind of art, Italian Renaissance art, single point perspective, more beautiful, more realistic, classical themes. By the time we get to the Baroque period, a little bit later, we have these words like grandeur, contrasts, drama, and tension that create this much more emotional and dynamic response. That's the second art movement that's there. So, wars of religion. And in fact, you know what I'm going to do real quick? Yeah, the wars of religion, as Tom was saying earlier, the wars of religion are about Catholics versus Protestants. This, you can see, is the Bartholomew's Day massacre, people slaughtering each other in the streets of France. This is what the Edict of Nantes and the Peace of Westphalia seek to do, to take religion away from being a source of war and make it something that's much more about a tolerant and pluralistic future within Europe. Okay, and I'm just going to check the chat. Great. It's great to see you all. Let me know how you're doing. And if you like this video, press that like button, subscribe to our channel. Got lots of exciting things going on here at Marco Learning. The movement of John Calvin that Tom was addressing earlier is part of the conflict in France. The final thing you want to know about is Reformation Society. We cover this at the bottom of Unit 2, AP Euro. And the thing that you want to know is that the Protestant Reformation does begin to change society. People begin reading the Bible in the vernacular language, in English, in German, in French. Women's education becomes very important in the Renaissance. We see an idea of the family and marriage. It's interesting because in Catholic theology, marriage is a sacrament of the church. In Protestant theology, it's not, but it takes on a new role. Protestants have a high vision of the family. We also see the rise of new civic government. So all of this is happening. It's fueled by the printing press. The printing press enables the texts of the Protestant Reformation to spread. It enables Renaissance ideas to spread and new images to move around. Okay, so real quick, I'm just going to check all this. And let me know if there's anyone I need to ban in the chat. I can't even tell. There's so much going on. So Unit 1 and Unit 2 are here in our study guide pack. You can just go download that now. Let's talk about Unit 3. There are two key terms in Unit 3, which are absolutism and constitutionalism. Let's start with absolutism and these beautiful tights and shoes of Louis XIV, Louis XIV of France. He is your poster boy for absolutism. And the name is what it sounds like. Absolute monarchs have absolute power. Medieval kings, weak. Early modern kings starting to become more powerful concentration of wealth, pulling in all this information. And that's a very important thing, that the consolidation of power, the creation of the titles of nobility, the creation of Versailles is absolutism. Constitutionalism is almost like its opposite. It's saying royal power should be contained. Let's compress it down. And so the constitutionalists begin to restrict the power of monarchs, to create a parliament that checks the power of the monarchy. This, by the way, is an image. I'll read it for you. A lively representation of the manner how his late majesty was beheaded upon the scaffold, January 30, 1648. This is Charles I getting his head chopped off, because during the English Civil War, people begin to really undermine and question an absolute monarch. So absolutism is the result of a consolidation of royal power. They need money, so they start taxing. They're expanding and building colonies, so they want to concentrate power in. It's a result of war. It's a result of colonization. It's a result of new ideologies. They claim something called the divine right of kings. God put me in power. You can't take me out. So beheading your own king, or as the founders of the United States did in attacking King George III, were actually committing an act of treason against the God who put him in power. Constitutionalism was influenced by Enlightenment ideals. We're going to get to people like John Locke, people who begin to think rational, written control of government is a good idea. So Unit 3 is all about absolutism and constitutionalism. That's its title. Another theme that's covered here is the Dutch Golden Age. There's the Dutch flag. That's a Dutch ship. Here's what you need to know about the Dutch, everyone. The Dutch invented joint stock companies. These companies were incredibly useful for spreading risk around. So like if you put all your stuff on one boat and that boat sinks, you lose all your stuff. But if 150 people invest in that ship together and the ship sinks, you lost 1/150th. That's the creation of stocks, or as they say on TikTok, stonks. So the Dutch invent this. This fuels this tiny little country's economic growth, and they're out in the Indies, West Indies and East Indies doing all of this stuff. So, by the way, it's great to see all these wonderful, beautiful people here in the chat. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just trying to stay focused and cover this. Let me know if this is useful and what topics you guys want me to cover. We're in Unit 3. I'm going to be going through the entire course. Here's a great little chart we have on this AP Euro Study Guide pack. Again, it's at the bottom of this page. And you'll see in the study guide pack the comparison between absolutist states and constitutionalist states. You know what I'll do too for my screen? I'll just zoom in a little bit more for y'all. Make it a little bit clearer. In absolutist states, the sovereignty, the power, you can see the word reign inside of it, resides with the monarch. In constitutional states, the sovereignty resides with the parliament. So this is basically the power of a sovereign is all in the body of the king or queen, just the one person. That person gets sick, your country's in trouble. In a constitutional state, it's with parliament. One person gets sick in parliament, who cares? Just replace and vote in somebody else, right? This is a key thing to keep in mind. Another word you must know from Unit 3 is mercantilism, sometimes pronounced mercantilism. We should know it from American history. It's basically the idea that you'll have a successful country if you have a favorable balance of trade. Get yourself some colonies, put some tariffs on their goods, export more than you import. It's a great system. It doesn't last forever, and it begins to get questions by people like Adam Smith, who's saying, don't expand out, focus on free markets. Mercantilism is about an economic system built on colonies and a favorable trade balance. Let's see. And great, these are great questions and topics I'm getting. And definitely check out, I've got a playlist of Tom's videos on this channel. There's actually, on our channel, we have all 9 units. Tom spends about 10 minutes going through them. He's also got like 100 videos on his channel. So if you're taking digital, and by the way, if you're taking digital, I'm just gonna show you this article here. I wrote an article for you all about everything you need to do for the digital exam. We've got a video, we have all the basic details, what you need to do. And then I wrote out strategies based on my years of experience guiding students through this. So this is in the description as well. This is here for you. Let's move on to Unit 4. Let's go to Unit 4. Unit 4 is all about the scientific revolution and the Enlightenment. What you need to know about the scientific revolution is that it invents the scientific method, a way of knowing that uses experiments and observation to tell us about the world. We got people like Galileo in that picture, getting yelled at, getting attacked, because he's challenging the geocentric theory, the idea that the world is, the earth is the center of the universe rather than the sun. So those attacks on Aristotelian thought, on traditional biblical interpretation, this transformation by people like Copernicus and Galileo and Newton is transformative in the scientific revolution. You'll see these words. You need to know heliocentrism. You need to know Copernicus. You need to know Galileo. You need to know the scientific method. William Harvey also invents modern anatomy. The Enlightenment is when you take that scientific rationalism and you apply it to society. You get people like Adam Smith, John Locke, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Montesquieu. You get the Hobbes. You get the characters of the Enlightenment who begin to say, wait a second, government shouldn't be about divine right of kings. It should be about a contract between the governor and the governed. The idea that people have innate rights, not arbitrarily selected by a king, not from some book of the Bible, but that you have rights from nature itself. The Enlightenment is more secular. It uses scientific modes to help explain how the world is. So this is covered in Unit 4. You must know the scientific revolution and you must know the Enlightenment, 2 key words. And if you attach things to that, it's going to help you on the test tomorrow. In terms of art, this, by the way, is in Paris. I think this is the Madeleine. This is neoclassicism, the like 19th time that people look back to ancient Greece and Rome and straight up copy buildings. All of Washington, D.C. is neoclassical, all the main buildings, the Supreme Court, the Congress, they're drawing from the classics in the 1700s. George Washington and all those people were Enlightenment, children of the Enlightenment, who believed in this revival in art. So far we've covered 3 movements, and I actually skipped one real quick. I'll just mention in the Dutch Golden Age, whatever this is, they painted naturalistic scenes of real people and real little Marcos in the corner. This looks debauched. But anyway, the Golden Age paintings cover not just royal fripperies like Louis XIV, the absolutist monarch of France, but ordinary scraggly looking people with food all over the floor. And that's actually relevant for you to know because the Dutch develop a different style. Earlier we had seen, and I know I'm moving quickly here, Bernini's Baroque art, which had much more drama and tension. And the first thing that we had looked at was this School of Athens in the Vatican by Michelangelo, which is an incredible, Raphael, incredible painting that shows the creation of single point perspective. The Sistine Chapel, by the way, is just a few rooms down from this in the Vatican. So another thing that happened, and Tom Richey was mentioning this earlier when he was on the broadcast, is the way that this works with enlightened absolutist monarchs who maintain this power, but then begin to take principles of enlightenment. Okay, let me just deal with that. Let me see real quick. Bestie John, how do I not pass away during the exam? Trust your training, bro. You're going to do great. So definitely make sure that you trust your own instincts with this. You're not going to need to know everything and be perfect on test day. One thing I want to tell you guys about real quick. I took AP Art History in high school. This is a flex. I didn't take the class, studied for 3 weeks, got a 4. I binged on my textbook and videos. We used to watch like VHS videos, and then I trusted myself and I did my best and I got 60% of the multiple choice correct, and that was enough for a 4. So back to Unit 4 of AP Euro. This is the enlightened absolutist monarchs, people like Frederick the Great of Prussia, people like Catherine the Great begin to implement reform programs. We see that this is a word that sometimes throws people, secularization. The saeculum is the world around you. So secular is more worldly and less religious. This ultimately leads to the French Revolution. If you think about it, weak medieval kings, absolutist monarchs, their overthrow in the French Revolution. Okay, so, and let's see, I'm just taking a look. A lot of people here, by the way. Thank you all. And I see one person doesn't like the video and 100 something of you do. So thanks for liking the video. And by the way, I'm John from Marco Learning. We've had Tom Richey here earlier in the broadcast. Definitely check out the playlist I posted there. He's done a bunch of different reviews for us on our channel. Okay, so a final point I just want to say is this. In the 1700s, cities begin to grow. We're about to get to industrialization. It's causing cities to grow. We see the rise of new needs to new ways of reforming this. Sorry, the people, you know what the problem is? People who are calling me bestie are getting my attention, and I'm just gonna ignore the besties. On TikTok, the descending order hierarchy of names is bruh, bro, bestie. And then the last set would be like, you work for the College Board, which I don't. You work for the College Board and I hate you. That was where I was a couple months ago. And by the way, if you don't follow us on Instagram and TikTok, we're gonna be posting updates, doing after parties, and all sorts of things through this summer and other AP exams as well. Okay, so we are in this AP Euro study guide pack, this document right here that's on the Marco Learning website, the description, the link is in the description. And we've got at the end of Unit 4, this issue of cities creating, as a result of industrialization, as a result of everything else, all of these different problems like crowded cities and the need for public sanitation. We also see the rise of a new culture of salons and coffee houses where people are gathering together and spreading these ideas. One notable person you should definitely know is Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who helps develop ideas of the social contract, but who also believed that women shouldn't be included in this story. So this is an enlightenment that doesn't quite catch up to full representation for women in public life. Okay. We're halfway through, guys. We're flying. This is a cram review. Unit 5 is all about the explosion of violence at the end of the 18th century. The American Revolution overthrows King George III. The French Revolution overthrows Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette. They get their heads chopped off. Versailles gets stormed, and it's an incredible, way that this whole thing kind of falls apart. Absolutism, mercantilism, and these systems. Key word that you should definitely know is capitalism, which is a system in which you believe that by letting business owners create their businesses, build factories, do all of these things, you create economic growth. Left unchecked, and no one would dispute this, left totally unchecked and unregulated, abuses can exist. And that's where you get people working 14 hours a day. You get business owners exploiting their workers. So capitalism is about to explode into its own problem into the 18 and 1900s. But this is where we are at the beginning of this issue. We're about halfway through the course in the late 1700s. We've got a French and American Revolution. The French Revolution is an astonishing moment. And compared to the American Revolution, which a lot of us are familiar with, it's a lot more violent and a lot more secular. At least in the American Revolution, they were pretending to or pointing in the direction of religion. There were times where in the French Revolution, at one point, they were smashing the statues on the facade of Notre Dame, and they turned Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, the great Catholic cathedral, into a temple of reason, and took the Virgin Mary, Notre Dame, Our Lady, Virgin Mary, down and put like the goddess of reason or whatever there. It was a really incredible Enlightenment moment. It was very short-lived. As the French Revolution progressed, it basically cannibalized into itself, and it left us with this guy. Now, we've been looking at people's clothing. Here he is, the man of the hour, Napoleon Bonaparte, with his hand on his belly and his little tidy whitey pants. He becomes emperor of France. For about 15 years, he rules over France and begins to invade other countries. And He invades Spain, which causes a backlash. He's in Poland. He's in all of these places. And by the time 1815 rolls around, it's all exploded in failure. And Europe is being divided up at the Congress of Vienna, where Prince Metternich of Austria is ushering in the age of Metternich, an attempt to build a map that would keep the peace, to keep at bay the forces of nationalism. But nationalism, which means love of country, had really developed as a response to the Napoleonic moment. The British become more nationalistic. The Spanish become more nationalistic. So this is Unit 5. Big picture of Unit 5, French and American revolutions begin to undermine absolute monarchy, mercantilism, and the systems that ruled the world. The bloody, nasty French Revolution ends up with Napoleon, which is more blood, a little more nastiness, which ends with the 1815 Congress of Vienna. You'll note in these guides, everyone, that we put little timelines in here with quickie reviews of what you need to know. The one thing I do want to point out about art is Romanticism. Romantic art, look at this guy. Look at this wander above the sea of fog. Let's zoom on in. Here's a piece of art where the subject is facing away from you. That's not how you do art. All the lines are blurry. That's not real art. Why is it important that the subject is turned away, slap in the middle of the canvas, the fog rolling out in a very misty kind of way? Because the Romantic era rejects the Enlightenment rationalism of straight lines and rules and classicism and embraces sentiment and feeling and emotion. Romanticism in the 1800s is about your soul and your heart being your guide, not logic and reason and protractors. So I'm just going to take a second. There's a lot of besties happening here in the chat, which is extremely distracting. Let's see. Good. Great. Thank you. And by the way, there's people like putting money, donating money. That's a very kind of you. Definitely, if you have not yet followed us on our other platforms on Instagram and TikTok, do that. Okay. And we will, by the way, we're going to post this review. I'm also going to point out, everyone, the best, if you are up, if it is only 7:25 in California right now, you should go to our playlist and go to the description of this video. I'm going to actually show you this right here. Okay, this is our channel. Definitely subscribe, but look at this playlist. There's my man, Tom Richey, doing these 10-minute, 15-minute reviews of every single unit in depth. And there's me looking dorky. We're going through all these different parts. This entire playlist is here for you. Check this out. We go through each of the points of the DBQ and the LEQ, which I can end with if I feel like staying up late with you all. Okay, we also have this in Lang Lit. There's a DBQ walkthrough where I take Tom's rubric and walk through it point by point. I recommend this one. I also, for AP World, actually, this is an AP Euro DBQ as well. Emily Glankler from Antisocial Studies writes a full essay, and then I grade it. That's a lot. I think the DBQ walkthrough and some of these unit reviews are a better use of your time. Okay, back to Unit 5. The French Revolution, we see the rise of Romantic art. Now we're in Unit 6. This is a pretty straightforward unit. Industrialization and its effects, right? The first Industrial Revolution begins, it's the worst. Y'all are the worst with the besties. Thank you. Cheers. At least it's better than the bruz that I got from the TikTok bruz. First Industrial Revolution begins around 1750. You should note that it begins in England and it spreads outward. It radiates through the continent. New technologies enable better farming, the rise of cities. Look at this lady. She's working at a loom. This is a very different situation. Women would work agricultural jobs, or they would work at home, not in factories for long hours. The first Industrial Revolution is remaking England. Bigger cities, better agriculture in the countryside, unsafe, long working hours inside of cities. A new class of people, a new middle class begins to emerge, and then an attempt to reform. Let's take a look at the second Industrial Revolution. This really, the traditional dates, it's not like perfect, is 1870 to 1914. This is ahead, later in the 1800s. The AP Euro curriculum lumps the two together. The first wave is about cotton gins and spinning jennies and looms. The second wave is about steel and railroads and really making those skyscrapers. We get telegraphs that move information around, telephones that allow you to talk to people. Hello. You know, and you can see this in the old movies where they have like very primitive telephones in the 1930s. Those are invented in the late 1800s. So when you really look at the 1800s, you're seeing two phases. At the beginning, is 1750 to 1830s, that first revolution, and then 1870 to 1914. In art, you're seeing also the rise of, in the late 1900s, of realism. I mean, look at this. Here it is. That's the face of all these people cramming. That's actually, we should make a meme out of this. Like AP Euro kids at 10:28 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Marco Learning Channel, looking realistic, studying for AP Euro. So the thing about the Industrial Revolution and the rise of capitalism is it does create backlashes. The most significant one I'll put here is, here he is, also hand in kind of sus inside of the blazer. Karl Marx begins to criticize capitalism, and he's right. Whether you're an enthusiastic capitalist or a Marxist, he's right that the unchecked capitalism causes problems. And so he offers up in the Communist Manifesto a new vision of overthrowing the class of factory owners and seizing the means of production. This launches the communist revolutions in so many countries. And really, okay, here we go. I'm just going to get rid of, okay, hang on. Sorry, I just gotta get rid of some people. Okay, thank you. Thank you everyone for behaving in the chat. And don't, if you keep spamming, I'm just gonna throw you in the garbage can. Please don't. And I'm going to do that. Thank you. So Karl Marx critiques capitalism in the Communist Manifesto, which eventually in the 20th century leads to the Russian revolutions, leads to this upheaval of traditional kind of capitalism that emerged in the 1800s. Okay, so a couple of other ideas as people begin to agitate for their rights. They want something called popular sovereignty, the right to vote, for the people to decide. The idea that who reigns, that's the key of sovereignty, is the word reign. Who reigns is not the king, the absolutist divine right king, but the populace, the people reign, right? The idea of universal male suffrage. Suffrage doesn't mean suffering, it means the right to vote. Everyone. You don't have to be fancy guy in tights in Versailles to vote. You should get a right to vote because you have natural rights. And so these ideas that the people are sovereign, we the people of the United States, and universal male suffrage are very much Enlightenment ideas and very much part of the American way. So the other thing real quick is this, the upheavals of 1848, the so-called revolutions of 1848, that right in the middle of the 19th century begin to transform Europe. And the fact that 1848 wasn't very successful in some places is what allows a lot of these movements to continue on. Okay, Unit 7, nationalism, a word I mentioned before. If you are very, very loyal, if you have like a healthy happiness on July 4th, if you're an American, that's patriotism. If you like your country a lot, that's nationalism. If you like your country like a religion, you're moving into like from nationalism into like fascistic tendencies. Nationalism is devotion to country. It can be a force for good, can also very much be a force for bad, where people begin to colonize other parts of the world and crush them in the name of building a great empire. They fight wars that kill people. They attack other people and in the name of their nation. So it's a balancing act, right? It's a very powerful force. There's a couple things you want to remember. In the 19th century, we get romantic idealism, a lot of images of France as a beautiful lady. You get new reform movements. You get, in one subspecies of nationalism is Zionism, the idea that the Jewish people would return to the homeland of Israel. And that call within England and in other places was a very strong nationalistic pull. And it was to counteract the anti-Semitism in Europe. Anti-Semitism explodes in possibly the worst moment in modern history, the Holocaust in the 1930s and 40s that takes the pogroms and the persecution of Jews in the 1800s and consolidates it into what Holocaust means, a great fire where 7 million Jews die. So Zionism leads to the creation of the state of Israel eventually, but is also a response to the anti-Semitism that we see. Bismarck unifies Germany. Garibaldi unifies Italy. For more on this, check out the Unit 7 review that Tom does. He breaks this down in great detail. And sorry, I'm back here. And for those of you joining, I'm John from Marco Learning. This is our AP Euro guide. And let's see. Great. So thank you. This very nice, kind, wonderful things. You know, I was on, when I posted a few TikToks that went viral about AP exams, people thought I worked for the College Board, and I got some very specific kind of threats and hatred. So a little love in the chat is very much appreciated. And yeah, we also do, this is a point about DBQs, everyone. For the strategies of DBQs, remember, we've got a DBQ walkthrough video, and we have on our AP Euro playlist these unit reviews. We also break down each of the main points. So I actually go grabbing each point, the contextualization, evidence. These are super short, quick videos for you to do that. Right after this stream's over, I'm going to post it. Okay, so we're in Unit 7 of our these two-page study guide packs. Nationalism is a key theme, the unification of Germany, unification of Italy. Another thing here to focus on is post-impressionism as a kind of art. This is by a guy named Emile Bernard, and you see this highly subjective thing. This guy could draw and paint better than this, but he chose to represent things in a more abstract way. We're heading into a total transformation of art in the 20th century where things just fly off the rails. So there's a lot going on in post-impressionism that are pointing to some of the themes that happen later. So for our art review, that's kind of, we're following like straight lines and single point perspective to the chaos of the 20th century. Another theme that we highlight here on the second page of this guide is about Darwinism. There's Charles Darwin, best beard in this guide. And he is the father of the modern theory of evolution, which fundamentally questions the account in Genesis 1 and 2 in the Bible, and points to a more secular approach to human history, the earth, science, and all of that. The application of Darwin's ideas to society is social Darwinism. So in regular old Darwinism, it's the survival of the fittest. There's natural selection, exerts pressure on a population, and it evolves. Later in science, they add in genetic mutations. Social Darwinism goes with that first idea, natural selection. Only the strong survive, and only the strong really deserve to survive, and applies it to society. A social Darwinist will say that the poor are poor because they're weaker, and that the rich are rich because they're the best. And that's kind of the way it should be. That you have to overlay on the Industrial Revolution, on capitalism, and on these other themes. That's Darwinism and social Darwinism. We see one of the worst things ever invented in Europe is trench warfare. In Unit 8, it's all about World War I and World War II. And World War I emerges because you have an alliance system, the Triple Alliance and the Triple Entente, two networks that all agreed with each other that if somebody declared war on you, you're going to declare war on him. And before you know it, the whole house of cards fell in. So the Archduke Franz Ferdinand is assassinated. The alliance system collapses. And we head into war that ravages the French countryside, kills millions of people, involves mustard gas, aeroplanes. And this is trench warfare. Dead bodies piled up. You have no man's land in between it. You have really total war. You have chemical warfare, and just an absolutely devastating reality, something that shocks the intellectual and cultural world, a world that had been telling itself it was progressing. I mean, Darwinism basically said, like, the world is progressing to perfection. And then like a couple decades later, they're all in a mud pit fighting each other. So World War I is not only a war that lasts from 1914 to 1919 that destroys the countryside, it escalates war, kills millions of people, damages the economy, creates future problems. World War I shatters the myth of progress and civilization that the people of Europe so ardently believed in. Dada. This is a famous urinal flipped upside down by Marcel Duchamp. This traveled the world. this work of art. This is making a mockery of what art is, using art. And a lot of the art we've seen in the last 100 years comes out of this kind of assault on traditional art itself as art. And it's absolutely fascinating. The more you study 20th century art, when I was your age, I kind of like thought it was crazy and wild and like stupid. And now I get it a lot more, even though I'm not going to put that in my house. Okay. Another thing that happens around just in the years leading up to the World War I and takes really Russia out of World War I is the Russian Revolution. The Tsar, who had so much control, is overthrown. And you end up eventually with communist Russia emerging in the 1920s and 30s. This is a horrendous image here on the left. This is Adolf Hitler with people greeting him. Fascism and totalitarianism are two great words to know. That the Treaty of Versailles that ends World War I requires Germany to admit guilt, requires Germany to pay money, requires Germany to suffer, which is a terrible way to end a war because the Weimar Republic of the 1920s is a weak government. It's struggling. The Great Depression makes this so much worse, and it allows a monster like Hitler to take advantage of the situation and convert German anger and frustration and rage and economic problems into his own advantage. So the hyperinflation of the Great Depression is something he uses to protect Germany from communism and actually launch one of the worst world wars, or the worst world war, and a terrible story. Benito Mussolini and Joseph Stalin are great characters to know in all of this. And then, of course, we have World War II. The Allies and the Axis. The Allies are France, Great Britain, United States, originally the Soviet Union, and the Axis powers are Italy, Japan, and Germany. And you'll see, everyone, we put on the timeline here. This is in our study guide pack, which I'll provide a link for. And let's see, just want to see here. Yeah, sorry, I'm not watching the chat. So please, yeah, I'm going to ask you guys to behave, and thanks. And I'm also going to like pull some people out if I need to. So, okay. So yeah, and just to clarify, Brandon, my name is John from Marco Learning. Marco is my dog, Marco, who's sleeping right here. Do we need a Marco dog break real quick? Should we? Let me know. Here, Marco. Marco, come on up here. Everyone, I'm gonna, real quick, hang on. I'm gonna get Marco. There he is, the man of the hour. Oh, he's such a big boy. Here, Marco, they want to see you. Hold on. We're taking a Marco break. There he is. So this is Marco, the founder of Marco Learning. Come on, he doesn't like it. Say hi to everyone. And he was digging in the garden, which is why he's all dirty. So he's a very naughty boy. He's definitely going to get a 1 on tomorrow's exam, or a 0 if they don't count the paw prints as English. Okay. Okay. Let me just see real quick. Yeah. Okay. Ellis, I'm going to just get rid of you. Thank you. So back in Unit 8. Nope, that's not it. Back in Unit 8, we're at World War II. I want to point out this timeline is a very useful way of remembering it. Remember, 1914 to 1919 is World War I. The Treaty of Versailles, really 1918, but the Treaty of Versailles in 1919 ends the war, blames Germany, ruins everything because it sets up World War II. By 1939, Hitler has invaded Poland. By 1945, the war is over in Europe. The war is over in Japan when the United States drops bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That is Unit 8, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move to Unit 9, and then very quickly, I'm going to fly over some tips for the DBQ for you all. Unit 9 is all about the post-war period, the Cold War, which lasts from around 1945-ish to around 1990. And it left a food fight between the capitalist countries of Western Europe, France and England and the United States on the other side of the Atlantic, and the communist countries that were under the control of the Soviet Union, the Warsaw Pact countries. So these communist countries included Poland and Czechoslovakia, and Romania, kind of Yugoslavia, and all of these countries that were in that orbit. Winston Churchill delivered a famous speech in which he said there was an iron curtain that divided Europe. And that's what we say here with Iron Curtain. And that curtain divided the Eastern communist countries from the Western capitalist countries. It divided Germany in half between East and West Germanies. The Western capitalist countries were NATO, North American Treaty Organization, and the countries, the satellite countries of the Soviet Union were the Warsaw Pact. So this symbol over here on the left is for the Marshall Plan for European recovery supplied by the United States of America. That's when the United States pumped a lot of money into Europe in order to prevent countries from going on to getting sucked into communism. So that is the Marshall Plan, communism, the Iron Curtain, NATO, the Warsaw Pact, and the definition of the Cold War. You'll see art. There's all kinds of art movements in the 20th century. There's so many, it's not worth really going over because it just explodes into so many different directions. The art you guys need to know is really in the earlier periods for the most part. Post-war nationalism, ethnic conflict, and atrocity. So during the Cold War era, it wasn't like every country, this is the Prague Spring, it's not like every country just accepted Soviet control. There were attempts to fight back. So, you see examples in Chechnya, Hungary, and Prague, the capital of Czechoslovakia, which challenged the Soviet Union. By 1990, the Soviet Union has completely collapsed by 1991 and become 17 countries. The other thing that's going on in the last 30 years that you do need to know about is the creation of the European Union. And here you have the euro. In the late 1990s, when I traveled to Spain when I was in high school, and you paid for everything in pesetas, and then you had to go to France and you have francs, and in Germany you have marks. They had all these different currencies. The European Union unifies that into a single organization for currency, which is quite a powerful bond of unity among these different countries. And so the European Union is part of that story that comes really out of the tradition of Woodrow Wilson's League of Nations, out of the United Nations, NATO, organizations that work together for the good. And then finally, we get the moment we're in right now. And I'm not going to belabor the point too much because we understand this. Modern feminism has created women's rights in its most recent form. Simone de Beauvoir's The Second Sex is a good example. The rise of the internet and cell phones, the very thing that we're on right now, whatever device you're on, whatever you're streaming over, my ring light, like all of this is a totally new era that shows up just at the end of this. So I'm going to take a break for a second. I'm going to talk to all the beautiful people here in our chat. I want to thank you guys for watching. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do that. We have not only a whole playlist for AP Euro, but reviews we're putting up for SAT, ACT, college admissions, Lang, Lit. Let me know in the chat what other AP exams you guys are taking, because we have a lot of different things. Okay, so let's just see real quick. You do not, by the way, need to know the order of the units. That is like completely irrelevant for your purposes. You're not going to name them as such. You just need to know some of the key timelines or key time stamps to help you just organize things. So if you're taking the exam tomorrow, it's probably too late to memorize dates. If you're taking a digital exam, first of all, if you're taking a digital exam, go look at my digital guide and the videos I put together. Here is me and my dog Marco. Definitely take a look at this. And it will help you on that. You'll have time to use these timelines to help you fill in specific dates and places and those details that are going to help you with your DBQ and LEQ. Now, very, very quickly, I want to go through, just because I'm going to go through the DBQ. So here's our playlist for AP Euro. I'm just going to, if you just Google DBQ rubric, right? One of the very first things you're going to see is Tom Richey's DBQ rubric. And actually, I'll go to, this is tomrichey.net. If you go to his, actually, we'll just go to this because it's the same for APUSH, AP Euro, and World. And what I'm going to share with you all, and this, by the way, is the rubric direct here. Let's see. Marco, yeah, and I think I'll do one more for everyone who's brave enough and crazy enough to stick around with me for a few more minutes. We'll do one more Marco hoist up here, and I'll show you guys him. I'll also bring him live. We'll do an after party on the Marco Learning Instagram account, and we can all hang out and talk about things. Okay, we're talking about the DBQ and really kind of the LEQ because some of these points are exactly the same. So contextualization refers to 2 to 3 specific detail-rich sentences that are relevant for the prompt that help set up the question. They can be before the period of the prompt, after the period of the prompt, or even during the period of the prompt. They can go anywhere in the essay. Make it 2 to 3 sentences. You should probably put it in the intro. Make it relevant, make it obvious. I have a little video on this. If you go to our playlist, you can actually watch a proper video on the the contextualization point for AP Euro. Check that out. Let's go back to the rubric. Here we are. Thesis. This is the most important point. Normally comes after contextualization if you put it in the first paragraph. Should be 1 to 2 sentences. Should be located nicely in the introduction. I strongly recommend you put it there. Answer the question. Read the question more and more and more. And, I like to read questions 3 or 4 or 5 times just to make sure that I'm actually responding to the prompt. Make sure that what you're saying is historically defensible. It could be argued with evidence and that it says a little bit of why. Don't just say the most important effect was urbanization. The most important effect was urbanization because it, or in order to, or as a result of, which led to. Definitely point in the direction of the why. So first paragraph, contextualization for 3 sentences, let's say. Thesis, 1 to 2 sentences. If you finish the first paragraph of your DBQ and your LEQ doing that, and you're successful, you have 2 points out of 7 on the DBQ, 2 points out of 6 on the LEQ. Let's talk about evidence. When you're working the documents, it's very important to use at least 3 documents. Just describe them. That's easy. If you've used your time at all well, you'll be able to do this. But can you get at least 6? And we recommend, Tom, Richey, and I'm John from Marco Learning, we recommend 7 documents. Use all 7 and tie them back into your argument. So if you do that, that's point number 3. Point number 4. Then, if you can source the documents, which I explain, by the way, and you know what I'm going to do real quick because I realize it's not there. If you go to the Marco Learning YouTube channel, there's this video. I walk you through the rubric. I'm going to actually make sure I save this onto the AP Euro playlist for you all. Where is the AP? Hold on one second. I'm doing it live for you there, making sure that this is part of the AP Euro playlist for you because I go into great detail about how to do this, how to source the documents. Then this is a harder point to get in some respects than just grabbing one piece of outside evidence. This is point number 6 on Tom's rubric. This is a point worth going after. This might be a bridge too far for you. Complexity is not worth worrying about. I'm not going to talk about it. No complexity point for you. I don't care if you get it. You don't need it to get a 5. It's not going to be that helpful. And you can see this, by the way, on Marco Learning, we have a little score predictor that can help you kind of look at what this is like. So I'm just going to show you this real quick. So if you go to our score predictor page, and I'll put this here in the chat, I'll show you what this looks like real quick. If let's say on the multiple choice, hang on one second. Let's say on the multiple choice, which there are 55 multiple choice in 55 minutes. Usually students do not struggle with this issue of timing, but you have to if you have time regulate. Let's say you get 42 of these right. You get 3 points on the first short answer, 3 on the second, 2 on that next one. You get 5 on the DBQ, 5 on the LEQ. What do you get? You get a 5. And then you can tweak this, right? If you go back, and let's say you get even fewer questions correct, 38, you get a 2, you get a 4. Let's see if that puts us at a 4. It does. So that's the difference, right? So those extra few multiple choice questions, it's that extra 1 or 2 points there. Okay, coming back to the rubric, the big picture for the DBQ and the LEQ is you don't need to be perfect. You definitely need to have a thesis. You want to use as many documents as possible. Ladies and gents, almost 11 p.m. on the East Coast. Y'all need to go to bed. I want to do one exercise with you all, which is this. If you're taking the exam tomorrow, I want you to say in the chat, I can do this. I am ready. I literally, like actually like a nerd, like type, like I can do this. I am ready. Take your anxiety and turn it into excitement for yourself. It's corny, it's stupid, do it. And it will actually, you can rev yourself up and talk yourself into a really good mode. Now, in order to like give you all the proper Marco learning blessing, I'm gonna bring Marco back on for a second, and he is gonna tell you that you can do it. Come here, buddy. Marco, tell them all that they can do it. Can they do it? Yes. See, he's smiling at you, everyone. He loves you. I can do this. I'm ready. Look at all these positive affirmations. This is like the opposite of TikTok and something like what Instagram was once like. Look at Marco. Look at him. He loves you. He knows that you can do this. So this is a very important thing to remember. You are not alone in this exam. Marco will be taking care of you the entire time. You are in good hands because you know what? Your teacher, the resources you've got, these study guides, these videos are, there's never been better resources available for you. I want you to go to the link in the description. I want you to trust your own voice as a writer. I want you to trust your own mind as a historian. Believe in yourself. You can do this. Stay in touch with us at Marco Learning. If you've liked this video, press that like button, subscribe to our channel, and definitely reach out to us on Instagram, TikTok, all the places we are. So thank you all so much.